I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Brian Wilson, and joining us right now, he joins us every Tuesday at this time when we're lucky. Larry Kudlow, CNBC senior contributor, and of course, host of the Larry Kudlow Show here on WMAL Saturdays at 7 p.m. Larry Kudlow, how are you this morning?
Good. Thank you. Good morning.
You know, I feel like I first got to know the amazing intellect of Larry Kudlow during the Clinton years, sitting on that fabulous McLaughlin Group panel, right? Yeah. Larry Kudlow, right? So Hillary's in the news, and boy, is she ever, with all of these interviews as she's rolling out. And listen, the low-hanging fruit, and I know, Brian, I know you want to get into the question of her being broke, right? Yeah. Let's get to that in a minute. Larry, you have met some leaders and executives and CEOs and chairmen of some amazing corporations. You've met presidents. When you hear Hillary Clinton speaking of Benghazi in these terms, and this is what she said last night to Diane Sawyer. It's the fun. Oh, jeez. Excuse me, I had the wrong cut clipped up there. Hold on. She did not sing an 80s rock song. Here's what she said.
I take responsibility, but I was not making security decisions.
Is that what a leader says? Is that leadership, the woman who wants to be the next president of the United States?
Well, it really was a blunder. I mean, the answer is no. It was a blunder. And actually, the State Department is in charge of security for the embassies. I mean, it is in charge. Now, I think what she said later was that she couldn't figure out every cement block or something like that, how to put together adequate security. But that is her job. I mean, the people that go overseas and put their lives in danger, and in this case, we lost a bunch of people tragically. That is her job. That is precisely part of what she has to do. And for her to dodge that or back off that is, I think, awful.
And trying to have it both ways. I take responsibility, but. No, there's no but there. You either take responsibility or not. That's what leaders do.
Right. There's no but. And, the key here on this and many other subjects, as she goes through her rounds of interviews about this book, it's so important that the media really question her hard and put her on the spot. Now, Diane Sawyer did ask a follow-up there, and I think Diane Sawyer embarrassed Hillary to some extent, but she's just got to be cross-examined properly to get away from all this dodgeball that she's playing. So ducking responsibility for Benghazi is absolutely crazy. And one question I really, at the end of the day, look, here we are in June of 2014. Let's put the clock forward towards the end of 2015 or the beginning of 2016. All right, I want to know what her positions are on a variety of issues. I don't want to know how broke they were after the White House. I don't want to hear her play dodgeball against her own responsibility. For example, I want to know what her position is on Keystone. Can we start there? Her department has signed off 3 times on Keystone. Now, she, on the other hand, has not said a word about it so far as I know. And, in fact, in recent days, State Department issued another bulletin on Keystone saying that train rail transportation of oil and gas is a lot more dangerous than pipeline transportation. I still haven't heard a peep about this from Mrs. Clinton. There's a number of these key specific issues that we need to know about.
Well, Larry, obviously you just don't understand what they've been through, the Clintons, because she tells Diane Sawyer that when they left the White House, Larry, they had to work very hard. They were in financial bad straits.
But we came out of the White House not only dead broke, but in debt. We had no money when we got there, and we struggled to, piece together the resources for mortgages for houses, for Chelsea's education. It was not easy.
It was not easy scraping together $4.5 million for their houses, Larry. I just don't think you understand what they have been through.
And, look, I haven't read the book. I confess I may not ever read the book. But if I'm not mistaken, you tell me if I'm wrong, those book contracts were signed or in preparation before they even left the White House.
They had $8 million in book contracts in their pocket before they left the White House.
Well, it's just a very sad tale, and I am sorry that they had to live so close to poverty as they got close to it. And I think really tens of millions of Americans will sympathize and weep with her as that quote is repeated on the campaign trail.
It's a hell of a gaffe. This is the first interview that she's given, and under a pretty controlled circumstance. Can you believe that gaffe?
Not house, houses.
Right.
Yeah, I understand. It's a tough life. It's a tough life, and we all look. I feel their pain.
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, Larry, moving beyond that, we just had a congresswoman on. She's Wolarski. She's on the Veterans Affairs Committee, and I know that you have some strong opinions on this. I wonder, though, as we're now watching the president search for a new Secretary of Veterans Affairs, again, you travel in circles of executives, people who fix problems. This is a huge administrative problem. What kind of person would you suggest to come in and fix the problem at the VA?
Well, I really like the floating of that guy from the Cleveland Clinic. I don't remember his name, but that's exactly the kind of executive. It should be, to me, a private sector executive in the healthcare management business. I think that's really important, or possibly in the insurance business as well. I think you need private sector help. They never had that.
But do you love the irony, though, Larry, of after decades of the Democratic Party demonizing the private healthcare industry, that they now have to look to the private healthcare industry to fix this problem?
Well, if they do, look, the report. What was it yesterday? A larger report shows widespread corruption and bureaucratic finagling in so many of these VA hospitals. I mean, it wasn't just Phoenix. Now you see we're at the 30 or 40, and the number is rising. And again, I take the view that this is VA healthcare socialism. That's what that's all about.
Yes.
The government-run, government-controlled, single-payer system that lefties like Paul Krugman and others have been touting for years. And here's what you get: there are no incentives. There are very, very, very little free market, private market competition going on here. I mean, really, the culprit here, as my pal Betsy McCoy has noted, one of the main culprits here is the government union that runs these hospitals, who wouldn't tell the vets that they had private options. If you're waiting 3 months to see a VA doctor, you can go to another doctor on the list with VA money. And at the end of the day, I think some kind of health card or voucher or something should be used. You've got to have private competition to make this thing work, and government-run, I'm just going to call it outright, flat-out socialism. That's all it is. So that's the lesson we have to learn, and that the government breeds this internal corruption. So look, give me a guy from the Cleveland Clinic, give me a guy from Mayo, give me a guy that has experience, but even that may not be enough if the structural problem, i.e. single payer, isn't changed or isn't fixed. You got to have incentives. And just one last quick thing. The doctor shortage, I'm sure the doctor shortage is real. The doctors don't get paid under this system properly because there's no profit incentive. And the studies show that private sector doctors process these patients 2 and 3 times faster than the VA does. Why is that? Because the VA is a sprawling bureaucracy, and they're only interested in scratching their own butts, and they have no interest in real incentives to get the job done.
Larry Kudlow, I know there are a lot of vets out there driving on the Beltway, pumping their fist in the air when they hear you say that. Thank you, sir. Always
Thanks,
good to
Larry.
have you.
That's tragically, the vets are the victims here, and I just think that's awful.
I know, and it's about time people speak on their behalf. Yeah.
All right, Larry, got to go.